What in the world is Lindsey Graham running from? What is he hiding? Today, I don't have actually the answer to that bigger question, but let's go for what's happening right now and what he seems to be hiding and on whose behalf. And that is, of course, all of the disgusting details about Matt Gaetz. Welcome to Morning Jen, where I'm going to give you, I promise, as always, fresh takes on hot news or hot takes on fresh news, your choice, every Monday through Friday at 8:30 a.m. Thanks, guys. Yesterday's show, I am thrilled. Yesterday's show had our biggest audience ever, more than $21,000. And guys, this is the moment where I just say, please like and subscribe. And one other programming note, and thank you all for being here. Just want to let you know, because people have been asking. I produce this show independently. I have been separate from Mary Trump Media producing my show for a while, and I'm fully independent. And as of August, I was fully independent as of August producing this show. And I'm really thrilled that you are here supporting me. So let's talk about Lindsey Graham. What is he running from? Did I say 2,000? It was 21,000. 21,000. I don't know what number I said. I'm sorry. I don't know what number I just said. My husband, Michael, is right now telling me and texting me what my actual numbers were from yesterday. So maybe, hey, mods, Jason or Susan or Deb, will you please do the fact checking? I think, you guys, can you please tell me how many? Oh, dollars. Oh, shit. I said $21,000. Oh, no. 21,000 viewers. Thank you, Michael, for that correction. Okay, guys, that would be flippin' amazing. It is not. It is not 21,000 viewers, guys. Anyhow, okay, let me share with you what the lead story of the day. What is Lindsey Graham hiding? Here we go.
Senator Graham. How was your meeting? What do you have to say about it? Are you concerned about Gaetz at all?
All right, well, that went well. Senator Lindsey Graham not speaking. Can you believe this? Not speaking to our own Chad Burgum on his meeting today with one Matt Gaetz, all of this.
Oh, I can believe it. Let's remember about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham has basically subordinated whatever is left of his weak sense of self and ego to Donald Trump time and time and time again. And yes, I love Michael. He just made me a giant cup of coffee. And I was taking my first sip before I did that. I always have money on my mind, right? Okay, so let's just say this. Do you remember the hearings for the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh in the fall of 2018? And Lindsey Graham, after there was a kind of like a recess, came back and was fighting, and he was fuming at the mouth, and he was defending as hard as he could Brett Kavanaugh to get that vote that he needed to become a Supreme Court justice, notwithstanding the credible allegations and the credible testimony of Christine Blasey Ford. So I think Lindsey Graham is always on Donald Trump's side, in part because they have dirt on him. And look, I don't want to shame him, but for years, the rumor has been that he is gay. And that is a glorious thing, to recognize who you are and what kind of person you are, and to be able to live with that understanding. Now, of course, this has never been substantiated, and I don't want a senator to sue me. So I'm telling you, these are rumors. These are rumors about him. This is not who he is, but these are rumors, and I am reporting on the news of these rumors. I'm also reporting on the shameful way that people refer to him as Ladybug. And again, rumors that he's called Ladybug because he has cute moles all over his body. And again, I haven't seen his body. Who knows if this is true? I'm reporting on these rumors. And so who knows what the truth is and what he is hiding, but he certainly is hiding for Matt Gaetz, which brings me to some of the latest on Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is a shameless MF, basically. He is a shameless man who should not be nominated to Attorney General. And in fact, and now I'm going to start shouting, if Merrick Garland had done his job, someone at the Justice Department would have indicted him. More and more information is coming out about what he did and evidence of the payments that he made. They literally followed the money, and there is like this complex web diagram showing how Matt Gaetz made all these different payments through different vehicles and people, and then they all come back to his friend who is in prison now, who was helping set up his liaisons with prostitutes and also set up his connection so that he could rape a 17-year-old. And yet still, apparently, the Justice Department dropped the case. Now, let's keep in mind, the investigation of Matt Gaetz began under when Donald Trump was president, when Bill Barr was in charge. But Merrick Garland is his own person, apparently, and he was hired to do a job, not to rubber stamp whatever Bill Barr did. And we all know that Bill Barr had, even after Michael Cohen was indicted and imprisoned, had pressured the Southern District of New York not to bring the case against individual one, namely Donald Trump, because he was, of course, connected with the hush money case. This is the Stormy Daniels paying her so to hide the fact that basically paying Stormy Daniels to cover up this affair. And this was both a state and federal criminal law violation, but Merrick Garland chose not to pursue it. Similarly, Merrick Garland's Justice Department chose not to pursue Matt Gaetz. So I'm beginning to wonder what the F is going on with these men. What is Merrick Garland hiding? I mean, I don't get it. And again, there are no rumors that he's hiding something. I am speaking as if, because I'm going to tell you something. If Merrick Garland is not being blackmailed, and I know he's not, if he's not afraid that something about him will come out, if he's not, then it's even worse. It's even worse that without any personal stake in this, that Merrick Garland looked at these facts and decided not to let the Justice Department bring an indictment. Now, you may say, oh, maybe he wasn't involved. Maybe it was the local prosecutors. Get your ass involved. Get involved. That's a job of the Justice Department. It is a slap in the face to all Americans what Merrick Garland did to undermine the effectiveness of what is supposed to be the toolkit for actually making sure justice happens in America, the Department of Justice. And he did not use the mandate that he had. He did not use the tools. And in fact, he basically took those tools away from people, or did not knock on someone's door and say, hey, what's going on with this case, and make this happen. There is such a double standard in that department. And I am, when I have a moment, I am going to write that piece for Washington Monthly, letting it all out about, in case you haven't heard, not just my feelings, but the data on what a bad job Merrick Garland has done, and how I believe, thanks to him, we now have this Trump presidency. And it's not just him. If you read my book, Big Dirty Money, I said if any of the other federal prosecutors had any courage to go after the white, wealthy, and well-connected, Donald Trump would not have ascended to power the way he did. And I'm not trying to push my book, but it is really helpful if you want to understand the context, because even if and when Donald Trump is no longer in control of America, and assuming we have anything left of an administrative state at that time, we still need to face the fact that we are living in an oligarchy. Some people call it a kakistocracy, which means rule by the criminals. But we have a big problem in this country, and it's far bigger than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a creation of a system that elevates wealth and power over justice and fairness. And I don't know, guys, how I went down this path, because I just started here with Lindsey Graham, and I am doing the weave. Yes, I am doing the flippin' weave. The weave is now mine. Move aside, Donald Trump. It's landing. Now, back to what Lindsey Graham is covering up, and that is the situation with Matt Gaetz. Let's take a peek at Matt Gaetz. He was in the halls of Congress, and he's walking down the halls with two buds. Who would that be? J.D. Vance. Oh, there's J.D. He's been sent on a mission. Now, of course, J.D. Vance, as you know, is a senator, so he should be spending some time in the Senate. And he is also flanked by Marco Rubio, two people who owe their increasing, increasing elevation in the ladders of power to Donald Trump, a demented, and I don't mean demented in a sort of abstract way. I mean a man with severe dementia who has been adjudicated a rapist, who has been found guilty by a jury on 34 felony counts, who spent his entire adult life scamming people, including a fake university. Hello, RICO settlement, including failed casinos. Hello, several bankruptcies, including those casinos. Hello, money laundering settlement. Need I go on? I mean, I could. And if you are curious about all of his brushes with criminal behavior for which Donald Trump was given that slap on the wrist, again, big dirty money. But again, these guys who are flanking Matt Gaetz in the hallways of Congress have looked the other way, and they've already looked the other way for Donald Trump. So what's one more rapist? What's one more rapist? How can they hold their nose at Matt Gaetz when they are kissing the ring of an adjudicated rapist? How? They have lost any credibility, and they figure, why throw good money after bad? Just throw in more bad money. Let's take a look at that hallway.
How have your meetings been today, sir?
They've been going great. Senator's been giving me a lot of good advice. I'm looking forward to a hearing. Folks have been very supportive. They've been saying we're going to get a fair process. So it's a great day of momentum for the Trump-Vance administration.
Okay. Looking forward to a hearing is a line straight out of Donald Trump's playbook. You always say, I'm looking forward to a hearing. You say that because it's not going to happen. He knows that the plan is to jam his appointment through in a forced recess. But you walk around with your head held high, right? Instead of in handcuffs in a jail cell, because no one holds these kinds of people accountable. And I am on a rant because sexual assault matters. And the message that Donald Trump just being elected, as well as assembling a cabinet of people with credible sexual assault allegations, Matt Gaetz nominated for Attorney General, Pete Hegseth nominated to be the, what am I thinking about? He is, I know he's going to be heading up the military, and I'm forgetting if it is head of the armed forces, Secretary of Defense. I'm sorry. So we've got Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. More leaks out about his raping a woman at a Republican women's conference. We have Matt Gaetz raping a 17-year-old girl. These are the allegations, of course. We also have nominated to be Secretary of Education, McMahon. She has been with her husband, Vincent McMahon. She has been accused of covering up child sexual abuse. Who else? Oh, I'm sure there is someone else on this list. And other than Linda McMahon, I mean, why are there even one or two or three of these people? It's disgusting. Okay, so I am not the only person, obviously, who thinks this. And it is basically a freezing cold day in hell today, because I am agreeing with Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain, who years ago blocked me on Twitter because I think I put up a picture of Lucy holding the football out for Charlie Brown and him running to kick it and her pulling it away in reference to something her father, John McCain, was doing. And that was not very nice. And so she blocked me. But Meghan, if you are a fan of the show, Meghan, hey, can't we just let bygones be bygones? Let's take a look at what she said because I am in agreement. Okay, this is from yesterday. Maybe the new Trump administration and Speaker Mike Johnson should just legalize sexual assault since it clearly is completely meaningless to all of them. Okay. Yes, Meghan McCain, I completely agree with you. Now, I'm going to show you someone else who seems to be completely, because it's not everybody, show you someone else who seems to be completely in the tank when it comes to supporting all of Donald Trump's nominations, including alleged child rapist, which is who he is, Matt Gaetz, alleged child rapist. Okay, let's listen to who is totally behind everybody, and then we'll analyze this on the other side.
Well, I think the word ought to be, Jesse, that every single one of these nominees needs to have a confirmation hearing as quickly as possible. My plan is to support all of them, and I would just say to my Senate colleagues, listen, let these guys testify. Give them a shot. I know some of these Senate GOP folks are saying, oh, I've got concerns. That's what a hearing is for. Don't go out and bash these people until you've at least allowed them to make their case. And listen, I mean, I think they've got momentum. I thought the meeting today with Gaetz went great, and it's full steam ahead.
Josh Hawley. I got so much to say about this. Number one, he says he thinks Donald Trump should have his cabinet, the one he wants. Well, Josh Hawley also voted against every single one of Joe Biden's nominees. Fine. Also, this is someone who is supposed to be an ultra-conservative patriot. Yet again, why? Why are these men just totally fine with sexual assault? Now, speaking of Donald Trump being entitled to his cabinet, he does not have a mandate. And I know that we have talked about this, but I want you to look at the latest. And what I am showing you guys here is something that was put together by Dave Wasserman. This is showing you from the Cook Political Report. We now have, and this was as of Tuesday, we now have more than 153 million votes counted. And Donald Trump's popular vote keeps shrinking. He is only about 1.68% ahead of Kamala Harris. You can see that nobody here got a majority, and Donald Trump just got a plurality. This is one of the slimmest popular vote margins that we have seen in ages. And that should let you, I think, feel better. Not that Donald Trump won't use the tools in front of him. Mandates, I mean, presidents will use the tools handed to them if they have them, or some will. But what it should tell us quite clearly is that, no, a majority of people in this country who voted did not support him. And we're fairly split 50-50 when it comes to this. And this has been the case for a long time. There are people who, got huge numbers in terms of popular vote relative to either who they defeated or who actually won. In the, like for example, Hillary Clinton got a substantially bigger margin of popular vote, even though she lost the election against Donald Trump. And Barack Obama really soared relative, in that race, because relative to John McCain, in terms of popular vote. Okay, so Donald Trump does not have a mandate. Doesn't mean he will hold back, but I want you to feel better that we are not really outnumbered in this country. In fact, more people obviously voted against Donald Trump than voted for him when you add up both the vote that Kamala Harris got and the third party vote. So the majority of voters did not want him. Let's just put it that way. So what does that get us? I don't know. That and maybe, $4.50 will get you, a small black coffee at Starbucks. Maybe it's more, but I hope it gives you a little bit of peace of mind that he barely won. Now, let's continue to talk about what's going on with Matt Gaetz before I talk about some other nominees and some good news. Now, even though Josh Hawley is, pretty, hell-bent on making sure that he votes for every cabinet nominee Donald Trump wants, not everybody thinks that Gaetz is a good idea. Let's listen to what John Cornyn, senator, had to say about this. Oh, and before I do that, you probably know that there was a meeting yesterday, and this is key, that there was a meeting yesterday of the House Ethics Committee yesterday while Gaetz is walking around the Senate. And there was this meeting, and the committee, and the way this House Ethics Committee is set up is it's intentionally set up even numbers. There's 10 members of this committee, 5 are Democrats and 5 are Republicans. This is not normal. Most committees have whoever's in power would have more seats, right? And so normally, for the other House committees, there are more Republicans, and for the other Senate committees, there are more Democrats. That's how you get work done. Obviously, for an ethics committee, the concern is that it would be weaponized, so it's even. Okay, so there was a behind closed doors meeting yesterday about whether to actually release the report about Matt Gaetz. And what we found out from this is something I think you should watch. Susan Wiles, who is the ranking member, meaning of the 5 Democrats, she is the one who's kind of the leader among the Democrats of that committee. She had this to say, and I want to find that clip. I did definitely have it here. I'm sorry, not Wiles, Susan Wild. Here, let's go play that.
House Ethics Committee.
I walked out of this committee without making one and walked back to my office, but it has since come to my attention that, in fact, we had agreed that we were not going to discuss what had transpired at the meeting, but it has come to my attention that the chairman has since betrayed the process by disclosing our deliberations within moments after walking out of the committee. And he has implied that there was an agreement of the committee not to disclose the report. That is an untrue, to the extent that that suggests that the committee was in agreement or that we had a consensus on that, that is inaccurate. And I will say that a vote was taken. As many of you know, this committee is evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans, 5 Dems, 5 Republicans, which means that in order to affirmatively move something forward, somebody has to cross party lines and vote with the other side, which happens a lot, by the way, and we often vote unanimously. That did not happen in today's vote, and I do not want the American public or anyone else to think that Mr. Guest's characterization of what transpired today would be some sort of indication that the committee had unanimity.
Okay, let me translate that. I love her. She's speaking very carefully in an appropriate way that people who are lawyers or members of Congress sometimes speak. But let me translate that into how I would say it. I'm only speaking to you right now because despite our promise not to say anything, the chairman of this committee blurted out information that was not accurate. And here is the bottom line that she should have conveyed, which is as follows. There were essentially 2 votes. We were completely deadlocked as to whether to release the draft report, she should have said. And then we have decided, though, that we had a majority of us vote that we should continue working on and finalizing the report. And furthermore, the committee agreed, a majority, that we would have a future meeting. That is what she could have said. So, friends, where we are now is no, there was not a majority agreement on the committee to release the existing report about Matt Gaetz, but they're going to finalize it. And it may be that the truth comes out. And that brings us to Senator John Cornyn.
Senior Republican on the Judiciary Committee, which will vet Gaetz, is revealing what he told him during their meeting, with Senator John Cornyn telling CNN that he warned, quote, everything's eventually going to come out.
Oh, good. Now, here's the deal. Everything eventually is going to come out isn't all that heartwarming. It is the fact that eventually doesn't bring justice. Justice delayed, as we know, is justice denied. And as something my favorite economist, or my favorite dead economist, actually, I love some other living economists, John Maynard Keynes said, in the long run, we're all dead. Okay, guys? So I'm not comforted by this will eventually come out. It needs to come out now, not eventually. How about now? How about now, John Cornyn? Now, I want to make you feel a little better. There's some really good stuff happening on in the Senate. And this makes me, I'm kind of thrilled about this. And I'm not sure if you saw any of this news, but what's going on while Matt Gaetz is on the news, walking the Senate halls, flanked by Marco Rubio, future Secretary of State, and J.D. Vance, future Vice President. While that is happening, the Senate is actually getting work done. I'm going to show you what was happening after midnight with Chuck Schumer in the Senate.
Without objection.
I have 8 requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
And finally, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it stand adjourned under the provisions of S-Res 902 until 10 a.m. on Thursday, November 21. That following the prayer and pledge, the journal of proceedings be approved to date, the morning hour be deemed expired, the time for the 2 leaders be reserved for their use in the day, and morning business be closed. Following the conclusion of morning business, the Senate proceed to executive session to resume consideration of the Wise nomination.
Yes.
Further, at 11 a.m., the Senate vote on the cloture motions with respect to the Wise and Weilheimer nominations in the order listed. Further, that following the cloture vote on the Weilheimer nomination, the Senate resume consideration of the Desai nomination, and that the Senate vote on the confirmation of the Desai nomination at 1:45 p.m. Finally, that if any nominations are confirmed during Thursday's session, the motions to reconsider be considered made laid upon the table, and the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
Without objection, so ordered.
If there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it stand adjourned under the previous order.
Under the previous order and pursuant to S-Res 902, the Senate stands adjourned.
Okay, guys. All that stuff was exciting to me, even though it seemed really technical. I think you feel the same way. What just went down is, while the circus and the clowns are in the news, Chuck Schumer was pushing through, getting through all the procedural hoops so he can keep getting judicial nominees approved, so the president can officially appoint them. The president still being Joe Biden. This is huge, and super happy that it's happening, and that there is no ability right now, it seems, for the Republicans in the Senate to get in the way somehow of this process. And I don't know if it's entirely because some of them are too busy hopping on planes and eating McDonald's with Donald Trump and showing up at SpaceX events, if that is slimming down their numbers, because there is it's a bit complicated how this all works, but ultimately I think that we have the numbers anyway in the Senate to get these nominees through, because the filibuster for judicial nominees, it doesn't exist anymore. Thank God we got rid of that. So we are getting them through. So that is absolutely good news. Okay, so I got a couple couple other things for you. Now, Matt Gaetz is not the only dangerous nominee in Donald Trump's cabinet. We also have RFK Jr. And forgive me, my friends, at the beginning of the show, when I was listing all the nominees with credible allegations of sexual assault, including rape of a child, we also have on the list of those people RFK Jr. So if you are keeping track at home, the number is way too many. One president, one cabinet member with either credible allegations of sexual assault or actually adjudicated a rapist, that should be disqualifying. Okay? These are not just clowns. These are rapists that are going to be, in some cases, in the positions of power they should not be. But in addition to that, as if being credibly accused of sexual assault weren't enough, RFK Jr. is a danger to the public. He's absolutely a danger to the public. And I'm going to share with you a clip from Abby Phillips' show on CNN where this is being discussed. But I also want to point out to you that there was a very good chart that I just saw from economist Steve Ratner. He had shared, and this chart showed the most dangerous wave of COVID was the Omicron wave. You might remember that. And when you look at this chart, you see that the number of deaths for people who were vaccinated or boosted was very low and very flat. And then the number of deaths for people who were neither vaccinated or boosted, obviously, was huge, right? This is the effect of vaccines. Let me share with you first, which is key here, this exchange about the dangers of RFK Jr.
RFK Jr. has diversity of thought, I think, is like saying Jeffrey Dahmer had cuisine differences. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And I think of insanity and diversity of thought are synonyms now. I think that's where we're at. Also, if you're looking at past performance is indicative of future performance, and Donald Trump ran all the competent people out of his last administration. I mean, we've gone from Mattis to Hegseth. So to me, this isn't really a surprise. These are loyalists. And if you look at their background, they are opinions. I absolutely agree with you, but they're informed opinions based on resumes, CVs, and what they've done in their past and what their past decisions have been. That's how you judge people. And when you look at what Donald Trump's doing right now, I think he fears people like Hirschman. He fears people like Mattis. He fears people like the lawyers. He fears people like Sarah Matthews, right, that were up there and said, hey, this is the shite that's going on right now, and there's something we got to do about it. And I think he's picking people now that are loyal. I think he learned a lesson. I think it's not DEI hires. I think it's BTK hires. I think it's been the need.
To piggyback off of this, I think that I swore an oath to the Constitution when I took a role in Donald Trump's administration, the first one. These people are swearing a loyalty pledge to Donald Trump. And so that's what concerns me about who he's filling out in his cabinet. Sure, there are some good picks. I'm willing to give credit where credit is due, but I think that the vast majority of them are unqualified or extreme. And
I love Denver Riggleman, former congressman. BTK hires, bend the knee hires. That's great. This is really critical to remember what is going on. He wants people who will be loyal. He wants people who are tarnished. This is why he always would surround himself by people with bad or criminal backgrounds, so that when they did his bidding and got caught, he could throw them under the bus and say that guy was a criminal anyway. Okay, now he's done the same thing. So if any of the people around him mess up in their jobs, he will just throw them under the bus, and everyone will act as if, oh, this is new information. Having people who are damaged goods is the plan. Now, that was just on Abby Phillips' show, and I thought that was very insightful, both from Denver Riggleman as well as Sarah Matthews, who had been in the Trump administration. I want to show you an additional conversation on Phillips' show with a conservative guest talking down, a male conservative guest talking down to a female guest who was discussing the cabinet nominees, including Matt Gaetz. This is unacceptable, and I love that Phillips called him out. Let's play it.
These are allegations from Matt Gaetz, but this would be the type of person the FBI would be, or the DOJ would be investigating.
Of course.
So the DOJ investigates. The Merrick Garland DOJ. They investigate
And just
this.
to be clear, this investigation began under Donald Trump.
Okay, and all during, the bottom line is the DOJ said there's nothing there.
No, they
That's,
didn't.
yes, they did.
They said they didn't have enough to indict. That shouldn't be the
No,
standard.
it's a charge, dear.
Okay,
no,
first year.
no,
Excuse
yes,
me.
yeah.
Oh, well,
right.
thank you for the misogyny. Okay, that's
Hold on. I'm just going to stop it right here because we're not going to get off on a wrong foot. Please do not address a grown woman as dear in a condescending tone. Do not do that at my table. You can continue.
I love her. Do not do that at my table. All the props to Abby Phillips. I adore her. I think it's good that she's having these round tables. Do I wish people didn't interrupt each other? Sure. But she is doing an excellent job on her show as far as I am concerned. Now, speaking of nominees, I'm still on cabinet nominees. I got one more before we move on to a next part of the show, some things that are going to be encouraging before we get to Crazy Town. So there is, of course, the very, very dangerous nominee, Tulsi Gabbard, for Director of National Intelligence, someone who is referred to by Russian newscasters as our girl, someone who has been sympathetic to dictators, including Assad in Syria and Putin in Russia. And I think I would like to share with you something that Nikki Haley had to say about Tulsi Gabbard. We'll talk on the other side.
Going to be the future head of our national intelligence. In Congress, Tulsi criticized Trump's authoritarian strike against Qasem Soleimani. Now, I will remind you, he was considered the master of death in Iran. She said he had no justification whatsoever for killing him. She tried to limit Trump's war powers against Iran. She tried to cut our annual defense budget so that we couldn't punish Iran and hinder their influence. Reminder, Iran is our #1 sponsor of terrorism, and Tulsi Gabbard was defending Iran. She went to Syria in 2017 for a photo op with Bashar al-Assad while he was massacring his own people. She said she was skeptical that he was behind the chemical weapons attacks. Now, this to me is disgusting because, Cheney, you and I were at the United Nations when Assad did those chemical attacks on those children. Yep. And you can go back and look at a speech I gave holding up pictures of dead children who had been killed by chemical attacks.
Yep, choked to death.
For her to say that Assad was not behind that, literally everything she said about that were Russian talking points. Every bit of that. That was Russian propaganda. After Russia invaded Ukraine, Tulsi Gabbard literally blamed NATO. Our Western alliance that's responsible for countering Russia, she blamed NATO for the attack on Ukraine. And the Russians and the Chinese echoed her talking points and her interviews on Russian and Chinese television. Tulsi Gabbard pushed for dropping charges against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange and pardoning National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden, both whom were accused of leaking highly sensitive U.S. secrets that put Americans in danger. She called for Trump to end the destructive trade war with China. So now she's defended Russia, she's defended Syria, she's defended Iran, and she's defended China. Now, she has not denounced any of these views, none of them. She hasn't taken one of them back. DNI, Department of National Intelligence, this is not a place for a Russian, Iranian, Syrian, Chinese sympathizer.
Okay. There we have it. This was not, last year. This is right now. Nikki Haley somehow finding her spine. I really wish that she had found it earlier and never never wavered. It could have made a difference. Really wish some of these people had found their spine before it was too late. So I got something positive for you, 2 positive stories. And I think you're going to love this. Now, you know how Stephen Miller has announced that the minute Donald Trump puts his hand on the Bible, which is a certain, crazy idea anyway, I wonder if the Bible will be right side up when he does this, and swears and is sworn in to be president of the United States once again. Hard to believe we're doing that, but when that happens, Stephen Miller says the minute that happens, he'll be putting in orders to begin to immediately engage in the mass deportations. And yesterday we talked about how Texas, in Texas, we have land that is being offered up to the government for these camps, these concentration camps, these internment camps, right? Well, not everybody, not every state or every city is going to cooperate like this. I mean, I should say it differently, is going to affirmatively participate in this gross human rights abuse that they're planning. Some places are just being quiet, but others are actively announcing the resistance. And I want to share this with you. This is from Denver, Colorado. And what we have here is, this is the mayor of Denver, Mike Johnston, not Johnson, don't be confused. Let me read you from Kyle Clark. Quite the statement from Denver Mayor Mike Johnston that Denver police and citizens would physically block a mass deportation by federal forces. Okay, the mayor also takes heart that the people of Denver, not just the administration, would likely resist a mass deportation effort from federal forces. And I am going to quote this mayor. More than us having DPD, the Denver Police Department, stationed at the county line to keep them out, you would have 50,000 Denverites there, Johnston said. It's like the Tiananmen Square moment with the rose and the gun, right? So those are 2 different things I'll talk about in a second. You'd have every one of those Highland moms who came out for the migrants, and you do not want to mess with them. Okay, we know Tiananmen Square, when the man stood in front of the tank that was coming in to clear the student protesters in Beijing. We also know, I think the rose in the gun, I think he's referring to peace movements. I think there's several of them historically where someone puts a rose at the end, either of the National Guard or another federal military forces gun to sort of show a sign of peaceful resistance. This is the best thing I've ever heard. Some people have noted in the news, what happened to the resistance? Why aren't people out in the streets at marches and stuff? Well, you know what? That worked in 2017 because in 2018, there was a huge blue wave in terms of Congress. That was really very good situation, right? But right now, hitting the streets makes no sense. We need to wait and do exactly, symbolic protesting, showing our anger. That was sort of natural because a lot of people, the reason why there was the Women's March is a lot of people thought Hillary Clinton was going to get elected. They already had their hotel rooms and the travel arrangements, so they were already down in DC. And that kind of spontaneously happens, and then it happens across the country. And that kind of fueled the marches against Donald Trump during his administration in those early years. However, now, that's not what's going to happen. We are going to lock arms around and with people in our local police forces to stop the federal government from encroaching on states' territories. We don't want military coming into our towns. Good for Denver, also good luck. This is going to be hard, but this is going to be important. And to the extent that I am in an area where it's possible to defend people in such a way, I will. This reminds me a lot of during the foreclosure crisis. There were community organizations, including one in Springfield, Massachusetts, called Nobody Leaves Springfield. There was also, I think, a Nobody Leaves Boston. And when there was a sheriff coming to foreclose on someone's home, where there was either a foreclosure mill involved or someone, the bank had done this sort of dual tracking, where when you were in trouble and they said, okay, stop making your mortgage payments, and then you can apply for the federal aid, and then the other side of the business didn't pay attention and they foreclosed on you. There were all kinds of unfair circumstances, or just plain being the victim of the housing crash. And what we would do, and I did this in one instance, is if someone knew they were going to be foreclosed upon, they would come and have a vigil all day and all night long on the lawn of that person's home to make it painful. I don't mean physically painful, but in terms of publicity painful, in terms of uncomfortable emotionally, for someone to come seize the home and evict the homeowners. We've done this before and we know how to do it now. I'm not saying everyone should do this. I'm just saying I'm really proud of the city of Denver. I know different areas, it's more danger. I can imagine cities in Texas being really fearful of doing this, but I'm really glad the mayor of Denver is laying down the stakes in this case. Now, I've got one more thing before we get to Crazy Town. You know, I hate giving Nancy Mace of the House any attention. She is transphobic and she is attention seeking. So I'm not putting her face up here or a video of her. I'm not giving her that credit, but I am going to share with you a response from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to what's going on. So I think that you are aware that Nancy Mace is being very hateful when it comes to a new incoming member of Congress. So this is Sarah McBride, and she is the first trans woman, I believe, elected to the U.S. Congress. And so immediately upon finding that, learning about this, Nancy Mace was on the warpath. And what she decided to do is kind of make a big announcement that there should be, that the House would have a rule that only people who are biologically female, born female, would be able to use the women's bathrooms, right? And this was what her idea was. Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but in order not to be a distraction, Sarah McBride said, look, like, I'm here to serve my constituency. I'll follow the rules. If you don't want me in the women's bathroom, then I won't be there. Okay. So the bottom line is, her former aide, she had a former aide who worked for her, and Nancy Mace did. And she just said, this is just about attention seeking, right? And Natalie Johnson put a post up on X saying, if you think this bill to say that you can only use the women's room, again, if you are born biologically female, if you think this bill is about protecting women and not simply a ploy to get on Fox News, you have been fooled. And she also, this is basically what her aide said. And, other people have pointed out that it says tweeting, again, Natalie Johnson again pointed out, tweeting 262 times about a bill that applies to like 1% of Congress in 36 hours. So Nancy Mace put out 262 tweets in 36 hours. Her former aide said this is not about protecting women. It's certainly not just a ploy for media attention. It's certainly, but she says, okay, what is going on here? So I would like to share with you what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had to say. And I want you to think about this. These bathroom bills, whether it is in Congress, right, or elsewhere, if you are saying, only people who are biologically female can use a woman's room. There are a lot of people who, have a sort of butch presentation, who have a non-binary presentation, who consider themselves to be female, not trans women. And they're, what does that mean? Does that mean when you go into the bathroom at your high school or in a public building, you have to have a guard look at your genitals? How does that protect women? Okay, and this is what AOC had to say. Not only that, trans men are forgotten in this equation. Trans men who present, a male, traditional male masculine gender, right, presentation, are they going to now have to also use the women's room? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's listen to AOC. I think she's very convincing on this point.
Nancy Mace and what Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this? They won't come up with an answer. And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what. And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? Who would that be? In order because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans is disgusting. It is disgusting. And frankly, all it does is allow these Republicans to go around and bully any woman who isn't wearing a skirt because they think she might not look woman enough. People have a right to express themselves, to dress how they want, and to be who they are. And if a woman doesn't look woman enough to a Republican, they want to be able to inspect her genitals to use a bathroom. It's disgusting. And everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds. And everybody should reject it. It's gross. Thank you.
So smart, so compassionate. My respect for AOC increases as the years go by. She is maturing into her role. She was brilliant to begin with, and she is just so good at this. It's very logical what she is saying. Sometimes logic, my friends, actually works. Now, before I do Crazy Town, I want to remind you of this. It's amazing. Blue Sky. Blue Sky is amazing because you can set up these things. This says join the conversation, follow the big dirty money. Let me tell you what this is. On Blue Sky, I think I've talked about this. You can do starter packs. And what these starter packs do is, like, if you go over to my Blue Sky account, Jen Taub, and you click like on the side, it says starter pack, and it will open up my starter pack, Follow the Big Dirty Money. You can see the list of all the people who write about money and power. And you can either say, I want this whole list of people. I don't know what it is now. Maybe I'm up to 30-ish people, or you can pick and choose among them. And what I want to tell you about my Follow the Big Dirty Money starter pack is I repeatedly share it on Blue Sky because more people are coming over who do this, who weren't there before. And I say, hey, who have I left out? And for example, my friend David Enrich, who is the New York Times reporter who has written several books. He wrote a book called Dark Towers about Deutsche Bank. He wrote about corruption at some corporate law firms. He has a new book out. He said, hey, can you add me? What's most fabulous about this, there is a scholar from England who is getting his PhD involving white collar crime. And he said, thank you for this. And I said, he's so glad to have found it. I said, do you know anyone I left off? And what was incredible is he recommended 3 people, one of whom, all 3 of them are British. And I had used one of their books for research on my book, Big Dirty Money. And I was so glad to add him. We're going to make connections across the world around this topic. This is a really good list. So I'm not the only person who's put together these lists. I mean, you have Mark Elias, who has been defending democracy, one court case at a time. He's got a list. And again, you can take these lists wholesale by clicking one button, or you can go through and pick who you want to follow. So please join me there. Now, I want to share with you because I love Crazy Town. In today's Crazy Town, Crazy Town. And I'm going to start with Jesse Waters. Okay, so guys, this is something. So I think I'm just going to, lean into this and share it with you because it is as I said, something.
President in history just got a little older. It's Joe Biden's birthday. The big 82 for the big guy. And Primetime would wish him a happy birthday, but we have rules here. Men don't wish men happy birthdays.
What? Oh my God. Did you know that if you wish another man a happy birthday, another fairy gets its wings? What? You become gay if you wish a man a happy birthday? What is with these people? Liberate men. Why are they trying to? I mean, this supposed macho patriarchy rape culture that is now infiltrating the cabinet hurts men. It hurts men. It gives men a bad name. And like now you're telling this, and I know an adult man will laugh this off as crazy. But when young boys hear that you're not supposed to wish another guy a happy birthday, what are you doing to their feelings? He knows damn well what you're doing. If you tell people to shut down their emotions, to shut down affection, the only thing that comes out is anger. You're not going to share anxiety. You're not going to share sadness. You're not going to share vulnerability. The only emotion you can share is the surface emotion of anger and violence and power. This is so manipulative. It would be crazy if it weren't sad. But I do have a second shot at Cray Cray Town. And I want to find this. Okay. This involves Alina Habba. Here we go.
We want a normal America. We're all for anybody and what they want to do in their private. I don't care. We don't care. Oh, you know what we care about? Don't mess with our kids. Don't mess with our sports. Don't don't kneel for the American flag. You better get up. Those are the things Americans say. We want safety. We want
What a lie. Don't mess with our kids. Don't mess with our kids. Matt Gaetz messed with a kid. He raped a girl. What about Linda McMahon? Department of Education. She is being credibly accused of covering up a sex abuse scandal at her company. And let me be clear, Matt Gaetz allegedly raped a teenager. I just want to be real clear, okay? Anyhow, that is Crazy Town for you. And I am so glad to have spent today with you again. Thank you again for your incredible support. Smash that like and subscribe button. Thank you to my mods, Deb, Susan, and Jason. We're doing great. And again, 21,000 views yesterday was amazing. And thanks for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8:30.